Initiation into Hermetics by Franz Barden. Carrying on. The magic mirror representing a ray emitter in cases of room impregnation and treatment of sick people. A similar procedure is followed in the impregnation of rooms with the help of the magic mirror. You are loading your mirror with the fluid corresponding to your wish, such as light, biomagnetism, akasha, feeding its accumulation directly from the universe with the help of the imagination so strongly that the radiance is spreading over the entire room which you wish to impregnate. Fix the duration of the effect already while performing this accumulation. In this manner you can, if necessary, irradiate the room in which you are living for days, even for months, in order to obtain success, health, inspiration, peace. You will also be capable to reinforce the loading if necessary by condensing the dynamides by means of frequent repetition. It is a matter of course that all kinds of diseases and ailments can be healed too in this manner, provided the mirror has been loaded in the correct way. You can also seat a sick person in front of the mirror, and he or she will feel well again after a few minutes, according to the power accumulated in the mirror. The magic mirror representing a transmitter and receiver. The mirror can be used fabulously for this purpose as well. I mean to say, you can perform experiments of animating pictures and transferring sounds. Similarly to the transmitter and the receiver of a radio, our mirror also can be used in this line. I am going to quote two practices briefly which the magician can execute without any effort at all, provided he did follow me to this point step by step. The first practice refers to the reciprocal animation of thoughts or pictures between two equally skilled magicians. The distance does not play any part at all. 10 or 1,000 miles, in brackets kilometers, do not matter. The possibility of communication varies. That means it can take place whether by means of thoughts, pictures, letters, words, or senses. The practice always remains the same, and all work is performed with the aid of the same principle, that is, the Akasha principle. Below follows the description of the mirror, acting as transmitter without the person who is to be influenced knowing anything about transmitting. At the beginning, it will be advantageous if the magician gets accustomed to a certain routine with his partner, who is supposed to be on the same level of development, or at least does manage to work with the Akasha principle. Fix the exact transmitting and receiving times in accordance with your partner. Both can take place at the same time. First of all, the practice of transmitting. The sending person has to load the mirror with Akasha and to induce a state of trance with the help of the Akasha principle. He will eliminate the concept of space and time between himself and the receiver with the help of imagination. And thus he will have the feeling of standing next to his partner. This sensation will occur later on quite automatically, which we know already from experience and from previous experiments. Try at first to transmit simple shapes and patterns such as a triangle or a circle together with the desire that the partner on the other end might be able to see them in his mirror. The receiver has nothing else to do but to load his mirror too with Akasha before the transmission, to trance himself with the help of the Akasha principle, and to concentrate on the fact that he will distinctly see everything in the mirror his partner is transmitting. Provided, I should remove my hood from the headphones. I hope the sound wasn't muffled there. Where was I? I'll go back a bit. Try at first to transmit simple shapes Try at first to transmit simple shapes and patterns, such as a triangle or a circle, together with the desire that the partner on the other end may be able to see them in his mirror. The receiver has nothing else to do but to load his mirror too with Akasha before the transmission, to trance himself with the help of the Akasha principle, and to concentrate on the fact that he will distinctly see everything in the mirror his partner is transmitting. Provided both partners are on the same level of training, the picture projected to the mirror by the transmitting partner will turn out visible to the receiving partner. As soon as the time for transmission and reception has run out, change over to become the receiver yourself and repeat the experiment of telepathy in a reversed order. It is always a good point if the magician is versed with the transmitting as well as with the receiving practice. Nobody ought to be discouraged by failures at the beginning, but he should continue to exercise with tenacity. Success will certainly show up after several attempts. As soon as one is capable to receive simple pictures, one may reinforce the exercise by selecting more complicated pictures. Later on, pictures of living persons or places and landscapes. Similarly to the matter in which you were handling the preliminary exercises concerning the mirror imagination. Providing you are quite familiar with this experiment, you may pass to transfer ideas without imagination, i.e., ideas which have been registered with the intellect only. Supposing one has gained sufficient experiences as a transmitter and a receiver, one may try to write short words into the mirror with the help of the imagination to be read in the receiver's mirror. Words may be followed by sentences, and finally one will be able to transfer written messages from one mirror to the other. Having attained the faculty of optical transference, you may proceed to the acoustic transference. Take a sip. Speak one or two words into the mirror, with the desire that the receiver might hear these words. Here, likewise, the receiver remains in a trance state, waiting for the message to arrive. At first, he will feel it similar to a sort of thinking aloud, but from one exercise to the next, he will hear it more distinctly, and finally, as clearly as having a conversation over the telephone. Later again, it will be as if the words were spoken directly into the receiver's ears. As soon as one has become familiar with the transmitting and receiving practices, short sentences can be transmitted and received until one has become capable to transmit and receive full messages and news by constant training. Many adepts in the Orient are using this method to send messages to each other. The faculty is called in the Orient messages through the air. This is to be understood in a symbolic way, since all that is, in fact, done with the help of the Akasha principle. Consequently, it is quite obvious that also various feelings can be meditated between the transmitter and the receiver. This problem needs no further description. Mediated. Consequently, it is quite obvious that also various feelings can be mediated between the transmitter and the receiver. This problem needs no further description. Again, if the magician masters the faculty to transmit to and receive from an equally trained partner, he will be also capable to intercept dialogues or pictures transferred between other practicants, in the same way as it happens in the case of broadcasting, a fact which is called radio piracy in the magic terminology too. Now I am going to describe the magic mirror as a transmitter destined to transfer ideas, words and pictures to people who are not trained magically at will. At all. Not trained magically at all. This is what happens when you do over an hour's reading. Who have not the faintest notion that such a transmission takes place, or that, in this manner, they might be influenced eventually. In such a case, the magician only has to blow his intention into the Akasha-loaded mirror, including the command this or that might be transmitted to these or those persons. If the magician interposes the Akasha principle between the unprepared person, the latter will perceive the message according to his intellect. Should anyone not be sufficiently experienced in this practice, the message will at first have the effect that the influenced person becomes restless at the given minute and feels the urge to think very intensively of the sender, in our case, the magician. Later on, the receiving person will feel the message as a thought of his own, being unable to differentiate whether it was transmitted or originated in the own mind. But if the magician is interested in specializing in this kind of transmitting, he can suggest to the person in question that the messages or thoughts are coming directly from him. This practice will exert its influence on the receiving person, whether instantly or in the course of the transmission. The magician can also bring about a transmission through the mirror, the effect of which is to be delayed or to be perceived by the receiver only when he has become fit for it. The moment usually comes if the respective person is not disturbed, restrained, or diverted by external influences, and receives the message shortly before falling asleep or in the morning before awakening. In such cases, the magician concentrates the idea, the desire, or the message into the mirror, together with the command that anything he is transmitting should be perceived by the individual only if the necessary preparedness is happening. As long as the message has not been received, it will remain effective and adhere to the surface of the mirror. As soon, however, as the message has been sent out, which means the mirror has served its purpose and the thought or the message has been correctly received by the person to be influenced, the surface of the mirror becomes perfectly pure once more. Perfectly pure once more. I like that. The magician can attend to his various duties without taking any notice of his wireless work, and the mirror will produce its effect automatically for so long, until the thought or the message has really been perceived. The magic mirror representing a ray emitter for the impregnation of rooms, treatment of sick people, etc. The magic mirror may be employed within this scope likewise, and in the hands of a skilled magician it will represent an excellent help for his development. The practice of room impregnation is as follows. When you are working in a room which you want to be influenced by the magic mirror for your own purposes, you have to perform the loading via your own body. As far as loadings of the mirror for the benefit of other people are concerned, you have to draw the power directly from the universe without allowing it to pass through your body. Therefore, you are drawing an enormous quantity of light out of the universe, whether directly or through your own self, concentrating it, with the help of the imagination, in an accumulated form to the surface of the magic mirror. This accumulation of light must be repeated several times until the stored up light is adopting the shape of a ball or a disc, excuse me, which is spreading a brilliant white shine over the entire room, similar to the shine of a strong lamp. Frequently repeating this exercise, you ought not only to see the radiant light imaginatively, but feel it directly streaming like X-rays through your whole body. Transfer your imagination of the desire into the light with the help of your conviction and your faith, and at the same time think that the light is increasing automatically from 1 hour to the other, from day to day, and that the effect of its emissive power is growing more pervasive and more dynamic. Fix the duration of the effect in the same way as you did in the case of biomagnetism, whether by limiting the emissive power to a certain time or fixing it as a permanent effect. Now transfer the task or the desire to be fulfilled by the emissive power into the confined light, namely into your imaginary sun. For example, success, inspiration, furthering of the intuition, peace, health, or whatever you are mostly in need of. This done, arrange the mirror in your room similar to a reflector, so that you are constantly exposed to this irradiation. Take no further notice of the mirror afterwards, because it will work on automatically, influencing you or other persons in the desired way. Therefore, you will find yourself continually subject to the influence of the irradiation. You will hardly be able to manage your work, your exercises, your research, and your meditations without this method. In case the mirror has not only been loaded magically for yourself, but for other people as well, say, in order to treat sick persons for the sake of a complete recovery, you will find out that you can accomplish a great deal more being under the emissive influence of the mirror. You won't feel tired or worn out, and any sick person entering your room or coming directly in touch with the emissive mirror will feel an instant relief from the complaint. The efficiency depends on the loading of the mirror. Not only a single person can be irradiated, but as many people as there is space for in the room. Professional magnetizers, or those who are engaged in treatment of the sick or in influencing people, will find a marvelous sphere of action in this method. The emissive power is not only available for the impregnation of a room and for its irradiation, but it can be transferred with the help of imagination to one or several persons at the greatest distance. The imagination must naturally be accordingly changed in such cases. It is not necessary to underline how valuable the magic mirror is in the hands of a magician and how many possibilities it offers. A wise magician will certainly never misuse his magic mirror and dishonor it by trying to exert bad influences with the help of it. The magic mirror representing a protective implement against dangerous and undesirable influences. A magic mirror... so sorry about this. A magic mirror can also be used as a defensive or a protective tool. But then, of course, the impregnation of the emissive power in the mirror is to be modified in a corresponding way. And the room impregnation or the spot to be protected have to be loaded with the emissive force of the light in such a manner that the rays of the light will detain the undesirable and unfavorable influences or throw them back to the starting point. Having to do with bad influences or working with the impregnation of light, wanting a room to be insulated against good as well as evil influences, in all these cases, you have to load the impregnation of the mirror or of the room with akasha, transferring the quality of intangibility and impenetrability into it imaginatively. Any accumulation of the akasha principle while working with it is impossible, as mentioned before, but the wish impregnation, for the sake of a dynamic effect, can be repeated frequently with the help of the imagination. It is left to the magician to manufacture several mirrors for different purposes. But if he works with long-distance transference or long-distance reception, naturally he must not insulate his workroom with akasha, because this would prevent him from each long-distance operation. How to screen from any adverse influences and how to insulate certain spots with the help of a magic mirror in order to accomplish different magic tasks will be the argument of my second work, The Practice of Magical Evocation. Apart from the possibility of using the magic mirror as a protective implement, other more advantages are offered to the magician. With the help of the mirror magic, he can put in operation all the known fluids, the magnetic, the electric, or the electromagnetic fluids, and work with them in his practice. Which of the powers will come into question for the various cases depends on the activity and the effect of his wish. The magic mirror representing a projector of all powers, beings, impressions, and such like. The magic mirror can also be used to condense all the forces of the mental and astral planes to such a degree that they can be perceived even by persons who are not trained at all. This is not a matter of mere imagination or suggestion, because the thoughts, elementaries, elementals, beings of all levels, entities of the elements, and so on, condensed with the aid of the practices described here, can be condensed in the mirror in such a manner that it is quite possible to take a picture of them. Here follow the instructions for the practice. The surface loading of the mirror takes place with the help of the condensed earth element, which is not projected, first via the body and then to the mirror, which would cause paralysis, but directly from the universe with the help of imagination. The stronger the accumulation of the earth element happens to be, all the more condensed and visible will be the appearance of anything we wish to project. Consequently, it will be opportune to repeat this accumulation of the earth element several times. If you now wish an impression, a picture, or an elemental to be made visible to any other, probably not a trained person, that should be, proceed as follows. Introduce the Akasha principle, whether to the head of the person only, or, if you like, to the whole body with the help of the imagination, and, at the same time, order the Akasha principle to remain effective only for the duration of the experiment. If it comes to making visible any impression, do by your own imagination transfer the picture or the impression to the surface of the mirror with such a clearness and distinctness as if it were reality. Hold on to this conception. Now, when the person being influenced with the Akasha principle observes the mirror, he will see your conception reduced similar to a film. You can produce the same effect in the same manner with any self-created elemental, elementary, or phantom. But if you decide to call a being out of the astral or any other plane, you have to fill at least the space around your mirror in which the being is supposed to appear with the Akasha principle. It is more profitable to fill the entire room with Akasha. This preparation would not be necessary if you had a second mirror destined to the impregnation with the Akasha principle of the room in question. All the preparations being completed, develop a trance by introducing the Akasha principle to yourself, and in this condition of trance, call the being you wish to see. No matter whether it is an inhabitant of the astral or any other plane, as long as one is not absolutely familiar with the practices of the conjuration magic, which I shall describe in the practical part of my next work, the practice of magical evocation. Saying that a lot. One has to be satisfied with calling deceased people from the astral plane, a performance which is brought about with the help of the imagination. By means of the accumulation of the earth element on the mirror surface, pictures or beings will be materialized, so that they can not only be perceived with the physical eyes of an untrained person, but also be heard too. Everything that has been seen is, therefore, not a hallucination. For the magician is able, as mentioned before, to take a photograph of the picture condensed by the earth element. But mind, pictures condensed in such a manner have a much higher vibration than the normal light which we know. It is therefore quite obvious that such higher vibrations cannot be taken in the ordinary photographic way, because they do not correspond to our light vibrations. Photographs like these must be taken in the shortest time ever possible. First-class cameras will enable you to select a 1/1000th second. 1,000th second. And there are special cameras which even make possible a 1/2000 second exposure for one photograph. Special cameras like these are the best, of course, because they produce concrete pictures, and it is much easier to work with them. Taking pictures in the manner described here, it does not matter at all whether it is daytime or night, whether the mirror is lit up or dark. But if you like to take a picture of the mirror and its background as well, a lighting will certainly be necessary. Otherwise, there will only be visible and materialized. Otherwise there will only be visible the materialized picture in the mirror. Experience has proved that, in these cases, photographic plates should be preferred to films. Considering the fact that the vibration number of the picture in question is by far higher than that of the light of the physical world, a special kind of coloured filter has to be used. When taking photographs of the mental plane, with all its elementaries, elementals, phantoms, and other entities of this sphere, you always need blue filters. For all the other beings, deceased people, and so forth, violet filters have to be used. And other beings consisting of one element only, such as the essences of the elements, will require ruby red filters. Photos of phenomena occurring in nature, mainly concerning the magic of nature, are taken with yellow filters only. As far as the colours are concerned, the filters are therefore analogous to the respective planes. Moreover, the magician has got the possibility not only to show pictures and beings to any untrained person, but he can also display this person's or someone else's past, present, and future in the mirror. The magic mirror representing a television set. In our magic mirror, we are capable to observe occurrences or events which are happening to persons known or unknown, even at the greatest distance. Load the mirror as usual with the Akasha principle. Now remain calm and comfortable in your posture. Induce a trance with the help of Akasha, and in this condition, concentrate on the person whose deeds and actions you want to observe. Think of the magic mirror as being a big telescope through which you can see everything at the remotest distance. The magician will immediately see the person and the surroundings like in a motion picture. At the outset, the pictures will perhaps be a little muddy, but after frequent repetition, they will become very distinct. And there will happen a feeling of immediacy and nearness to the desired person, which will become so convincing that one is almost quite sure to stand next to the person one wanted to see. Even a distance of thousands of miles, in brackets kilometers, is of no importance at all. In order to verify and to be absolutely sure that everything one wishes to see is corresponding to real facts, one can imagine any different action of the same person. If one can manage this in full clearness with our astral senses, the things we have been seeing are a description, and the exercise must be repeated until one has obtained the faculty of distinguishing real facts from hallucinations and deceptions. Under a skilled magician's guidance, even an untrained person can take part in such a kind of television. Magicians, especially trained and experienced in this field, will even manage to take photographs of the pictures and events seen at the greatest distance, using a red filter and considering the practices described here. When you are not so much interested in the material occurrences which you are observing at a distance, but only in the psychic life, the character and the feelings of a human being, then do not think of the material body of the person you want to see, but imagine the astral body only. After a little while, you will see the aura and the characteristics of this person in the various shades of color, from which you will be able to come to logical conclusions concerning his character and his faculties according to the rules of analogy. If you are neither interested in the ways and doings of a person nor in his psychic qualities and his characterization, and if you wish to see the spirit only in the mirror, imagine the material body together with the person's astral body as not being there. Here too the images corresponding to the spirit will appear, and you can in this manner pursue the train of thoughts of a person even at the greatest distance. As one can see from the example quoted here, the faculty of reading the thoughts of a person at the greatest distance can be managed without any difficulties, and it depends entirely on your own will, how far you wish to extend this mastery. Sip of tea. The magic mirror representing an aid for the investigation of the past, the present, and the future. Working with the mirror, one of the most difficult tasks is the exact investigation of the past, the present, and the future of other people. It is comprehensible that the magician can perceive his own past and present in the mirror similar to a motion picture, but he will most certainly avoid to do so. Should he be as keen as to satisfy his curiosity to learn all about his future, it would not be difficult for him to concentrate on this problem and to inquire into every detail. But there is the rub. In the same moment, when seeing his future in the mirror, he is depriving himself of his own free will. One could compare him to a pattern which has to be filled in without the possibility that anything could be done for or against it. Quite a different matter, of course, it would be if the Akasha principle in its highest form, let us call it the divine providence, gave a warning to the magician in one way or the other, perhaps against dangers, without him having any intention at all to see or to learn something. It is quite obvious that the strictest attention has to be paid to warnings of this kind without any exception, because ignoring them would cause severe damages to the magician. Having arrived at this point, the magician will be capable to distinguish whether the warning comes from one of the beings, irrespective of which plane, or directly from the Akasha principle. The magic mirror is an excellent aid in instances concerning untrained people. Sorry. The magic mirror is an excellent aid in instances concerning untrained people, or such ones of whom the magician takes a great interest to investigate the past, present, and future. All thoughts, perceptions, feelings, and physical actions are leaving behind them exact records in the Akasha, or the primary source, a fact which enables the magician to read, like in an open book, in the Akasha with the help of his magic mirror, or directly while being in a trance. All he needs to do is to concentrate on it by imagination. In the beginning, when the magician is not yet mastering this problem wholly, the images will probably appear incoherent or sporadical. By frequent repetition of this exercise, one picture after the other will appear on the surface of the mirror in the correct connection with the past, as clearly and distinctly as if the magician himself were actually realizing the events. The magician can unroll one occurrence after the other, beginning from the present back to the childhood and the day of birth. It is advisable to follow the past back to the moment of birth only, although without any doubt it is possible to investigate the life of the person in question in the previous embodiments as well. But the magician may be warned against doing so, because any investigation of the future as well as of the former life in his own case or the one of other people would mean a sort of meddling in the affairs of the divine providence, and such a curiosity would cause dangerous consequences. To begin with, he would instantly become as old as he was in all the former lives he did live, a fact which certainly would cause a very unpleasant feeling in him and an uninterestedness in any further life. Yeah. Secondly, the magician is entirely responsible for all the blunders committed in his former lives. The only advantage would be that he would become conscious of the experiences in his former life, a fact which would never compensate for the disadvantages. Supposing the magician would like to know something about the future of another person for some really important reason, all he needs to do is to induce a trance. Provided he is quite familiar with this practice, there is nothing at all that will remain hidden. This kind of clairvoyance, where the magician is capable to perceive his own and other people's mental, astral, and material planes in the correct connection, is the highest point which may be attained through working with the magic mirror. As soon as the magician has arrived there, I have nothing more to tell him with reference to the magic mirror, and he will find himself out new practices based on the examples which I have quoted here. Franz Barden's Initiation into Hermetics.